Sad and frustrated. Those are the words of one CNN staffer amid the bombshell report that the network is cutting hundreds of jobs and will axe top stars.
Executives are set to unleash a fury of layoffs following CNN's abysmal election day ratings. The network clocked in at just 5.1 million viewers, lagging behind competitors like MSNBC and Fox News. The presidential election has shined a spotlight on the decline of mainstream media, especially cable news.
The layoffs come after veteran journalist Chris Wallace announced his departure from the network, taking leadership there by surprise. Rumors have been swirling for weeks that senior stars like Wolf Blitzer and Jake Tapper have been denied raises. Oh, it's so sad.
I am going to be more sympathetic because it is unknown which on-air talent will be given the boot. But the highest paid stars reportedly include Anderson Cooper. Maybe I'm less sympathetic about this, $20 million per year allegedly. Erin Burnett, $6 million, and rising star Caitlin Collins at $3 million.
The man behind the layoffs, Chief Executive Mark Thompson, aims to carry out a digital news first vision. The media exec also cut 100 jobs back in July, which was roughly 3% of CNN's workforce. Ex-users went wild. Conservative account Wall Street Silver posted, quote, "Maybe the new owners will figure out that lying nonstop to your audience is a lousy business model." And media group Sasquatch posted, quote, "This is what happens when you get caught gaslighting an entire nation." I wish we need to have tissues on set so I can,
Robby,
stop the crying and the tears.
These media are comrades in the media.
Oh, no industry solidarity. Industry, I'm a class traitor. I hate the people in our profession.
Looking at redundancies coming down the pike, I mean, which may hit people who are not on $20 million a year, and those are the ones I have sympathy for. Let me make a case of a kind for CNN here, which is that I don't really think the problem is the one that was outlined in those tweets. The problem is there is a cultural shift going on where people are not watching linear television so much anymore. They're coming to fantastic shows like Rising, but there is also a broader just cord cutting and all of that. And that has left the average age of cable news audiences really quite old. The median age of CNN viewers is 67. Now, we love our more mature viewers here as well, but the problem is, I think, a cultural shift rather than the flaws that one could point out in CNN's journalistic product.
Yeah, and look, Anderson Cooper and Jake Tapper, you may disagree with them. I disagree with them plenty of the time. They're talented people. Are they $20 million talent? It's difficult to make money when you're paying someone $20 million is just the honest-to-God truth of it. Now, no, they're big stars and people watch for their names, so I get it. You're right that I think it would be a shame to have all the littler people who are doing a lot of hard work for those shows, the behind-the-scenes work, the reporting, and you cut those positions, you hollow out those positions, and then you keep your stars, but then you don't have as much real journalism going on. You don't have any meat for them to dig into. I actually have been a little bit more positively disposed towards CNN in recent weeks. I've been watching it more, and I've been seeing that I've said this before, I think they're almost taking a page out of our book a little bit, where they've been having more robust disagreements, discussions, debates at like roundtables between some people who are a little outside their normal staple of hosting, of commentary. So I think that's very good. I'm glad they're doing more of that, but whether it's in time to kind of save the business model because of the reasons you point out, that we're transitioning to online, to streaming, to social media. There's also just something going on where I think media brands have lost trust in a way that individuals have not. Mm-hmm. The rise of Substack, the rise of independent journalists / content creators. It's not attached to a brand like CNN. It used to be, oh, it's CNN. We're just going to watch CNN. Now it's individuals, and individuals often don't need a brand, a CNN, in order to thrive in this new ecosystem.
No, and I think there are obvious strengths to that if people can survive under their own steam without being accountable to a boss or a corporate line. I think in the specifics of CNN's case, it is interesting watching the transition that you were talking about, where they now do have more people of contrasting views, but not just people, screaming at each other. They actually have, on occasion, fairly substantive discussions. In a way, I think the CNN brand in particular got very confused because many years ago it had been this sort of liberal-leaning but kind of centrist news operation, then I think it, particularly during Trump's first term, it became very trolly. Like everything was the biggest outrage that had ever happened in the history of civilization. And that worked for a little while ratings-wise, but it's a kind of McDonald's approach, right? It's just like there's junk food that you get a quick fix from and then it goes. And now they're trying to position themselves in a difficult climate where the overall audience for cable news is going down and their brand is not that well defined, except by their critics who just see it as, you know, fake news or whatever. Unfair, I think.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Well, MSNBC's viewership has plummeted since Election Day, by the way, with a 54% drop in primetime viewership. Evidently, the anti-Trump network did not receive a bump whatsoever from Donald Trump being back in the news. MSNBC averaged 1.1 million viewers in October, but took a nosedive to an average audience of 736,000 on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of last week, following President-elect Donald Trump's victory over Vice President Kamala Harris. This comes as Fox News viewership grew by 61% over the same period. Yeah, declining to, I mean, I know it's not quite equivalent, but I was looking at our numbers, and not to explain how the sausage is made of people, but we had 1 million people watch in a 24-hour period watching our commentary last week, post-election commentary, which is pretty good. They can't even get that many people to watch contemporaneously, have the TV on, and we gotta win you up. We gotta lure you back in with each new video, because it could recommend you something else. You could click away. Just got the TV on, you can leave it on, and that counts as a view. So in some ways, our job is more difficult, and we're doing pretty well for ourselves.
I like this tooting off our own horn. I think there should be more of that. You know what the debate now about cable news versus shows like ours reminds me of? When I first came to the US, which was in 2003. People who were older than me used to talk about the networks versus cable, so it was like ABC, CBS, NBC, and then like the cable networks, as if the cable networks were this exotic thing. And like for me, just arriving in the country, there was never any difference. It was just stuff that you saw on TV. Now I think for people, there's video content that most people are accessing either through their phone or computer, and it's not really like, oh well, this is the big broadcast name and this is a separate YouTube thing. People are, thankfully for us, open to all sorts of ways of acquiring and getting their news.
And it is true that I end up consuming a lot of like CNN and MSNBC and The View. We talk about them a lot here because I see clips of them on Twitter, on X. So if they stop making that, it would be the case, like somebody has to make the content in the first place so that we can react to that, and then they react to us, and then someone else reacts to that. But the thing has to exist itself. So I hope the business model doesn't get so bad that there's never an underlying thing being created anymore.
No, absolutely not. And to that point, like a lot of the most stringent critics of the mainstream media spend their entire time talking about things that the mainstream media has been the first to report and then picking holes in that reporting. So if the whole business model collapses and you don't have a New York Times or Associated Press or whatever, those people are actually going to be struggling.
Well, because when people complain about CNN or whoever they're complaining about, usually they're complaining about the often trollish opinion commentary they're getting from the pundits rather than the underlying news reporting, which is often quite good at any of these mainstream places. It's also good at Fox News and other, the reporting they do is very award-winning and good in the Wall Street Journal and all these places. Now, sometimes reporting is not good at, we've talked a lot about Russiagate, and I think some of the panics around misinformation have been, even in terms, not just the commentary, but the news stuff, or just being too credulous or too believing of government sources and, experts say, national intelligence experts say, without really probing that. That's been a problem forever. That's part of what led to the Iraq War in the first place, just being too much credibility assigned to anonymous analyst-type people, and the New York Times fell for that, and everybody else. So mainstream media sometimes does deserve the criticism.
Yeah, when it's too overly close to those in power, I think it does. And when it's more scrutinizing and more rigorous, then it's good.
Yes. All right, we'll be back with a lot more on Rising today, lots more to get into. Speaker Johnson might have another fight on his hands. We're going to see if Republicans are coming for him for not enacting Trump's agenda. Find out next.